this is the last day of my teaching career. I walk in the house and greet Cindy. I'm surprised when she doesn't instantly present me a gift to mark the end of my teaching career. In fact, she doesn't even acknowledge this landmark event with so much as congratulations, you made it. Nonplussed, I open the refrigerator and see a serrated Gerber knife with a bow around it and a bottle of my favorite whiskey, Rebel Yell, Keith Richards' favorite brand. I open the bottle, take a belt, slash the knife back and forth in the air, and Cindy laughs and we hug. Teaching is over. It's the first Saturday at the last day of school, the tearing down, the packing up, the hauling out, the faculty meetings, the debriefing, and decompression are over. At the moment, I possess no professional identity and no creative one. I sit at the burn barrel, burning paper trash, looking north to Nestucca Bay. A few feet away is a picnic table I just built from scrap wood salvaged from the barn. I turn my head and take in my first carpentry project ever. Mismatched for sure, but screwed so tight a rockabilly trio could use it as a stage. I walk over to it, rest a level on top, and watch the beads slide. I laugh and see Cindy watch me through the kitchen window and smile as she shakes her head. I start building a bookcase patterned like the one in the living room a real carpenter crafted. At dusk, I stand up in the deck, and it won't stay up unsupported. I put the level on the middle shelf, and the bead slides. I drag it into the house and nail it to the wall. I hope I write better than I work with wood. That night, I sit out by the burn barrel alone. Ray sleeps in a nearby flower bed. I look to the barn. It's coming down in less than a month. We have 3 months of health insurance. I'll take my summer paycheck and one lump payment, stick it in the bank. I have no real writing experience, no contacts, no agent, no mentor, no voice, dubious talent, dubious work ethic, a history of spurious literary attempts, a suspicion that the world needs another dilettante writer like it needs a hole in the ozone, no rent, no faculty meetings, no students to tell me what to do, no mandate to teach creativity, no papers to grade, 500 pounds of curriculum, a lot of free time, a lot of journal entries, an encyclopedic but essentially worthless knowledge of the Rolling Stones, blackberries massing for a counterattack, 35 hours a month forced labor, a lifetime of reading, a lifetime of travel, a lifetime of mediocrity, and a last path to pursue my dream. I consider the risky journey to the undiscovered creative country I'm about to embark upon and recall my favorite Old Testament story from Judges 7. To vanquish the Midians, God orders Gideon to cull his large army. Gideon does, and God orders him to cull again. Here's how to do it, God instructs. Lead the soldiers down to the water, separate those who go flat to the ground, and drink from those who cup their hands and bring water to their mouths. Did you follow that? Okay. Take the cuppers, says God. Gideon follows instructions. Only 300 men make the cut, and the Israelites win. Judges gets published. Matt Love, are you a cupper when it comes to winning this final battle against life? Well, hey, right? Winners write history. The weather turns hot on the Oregon coast after school ends. Every morning I set out in corduroys and old long-sleeve dress shirts with Ray to slay blackberries and rescue the new trees. I usually think about real and fictional stories I hope to tell one day, but often my mind floats back to decades worth of teaching experiences and a short speculation about who I might be now that I don't teach. Can I imagine a return? I'll miss it, know that. The narcotic, the power, the propaganda mission, the myth-busting, the cliche-smashing, the ideas, insights, the trenches, the playing, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, the psychological outcomes ranging from wisdom to transgression, the in-your-face defense of America's youth, the laughter, the intensity, the adulation, the provocations, the unjaded faces, the one-man untrained behavior modification show without script or net. What would it take in my heart to ever teach again? And what happened is I became a writer, and then I went back to the classroom, and everything was completely different. That's what had been lacking in my life. I was teaching writing, and I have a riff on the book. I was one of those I was teaching writing, and I wasn't writing. So I'm the health teacher that weighs 350 pounds. I'm the American government teacher that doesn't vote. I'm the history teacher that doesn't believe the Holocaust happened. You're a fraud. So when I began to write, and then I went back into the classroom in 2004 after a 7-year absence from high school teaching, it was completely different. And I recognized that within literally the first hour I was in front of kids at Taft High School at that time. And it really made a difference to me. And the irony of this is that this refuge opportunity, I was up there for 10 years until March of 2008, would have never come about unless this guy had seen me teaching, Eric, the way that I teach. And he said, that's the guy I want on the refuge, because he broke every rule in the book. That house should have been bulldozed. It was a nightmare, electrical panel alone, okay? But he had faith in me, and he turned me loose, and I was a de facto refuge manager up there for 10 years. And the story of my exit is rather painful. It's documented in the book. They decided that they wanted to open the refuge up to public access. Has anybody here been to this place that I mentioned? Okay. We can discuss it in Q&A afterwards. I was never opposed to the public going on to this place. I just wanted to confine it and keep it sort of guided, I guess. They called for paving, parking lot, toilets on the top of the Cannery Hill, which I ascended like 9,000 times in my 10 years. And it was done with duplicity. I was never informed. I was never asked my input, and these were people that were very good to me and have done some great things for the Oregon coast. I was really hurt. Then I was pissed. And so I led the battle to modify the public access, and I got my ass kicked on that one. That was a done deal. It wasn't going to happen, and it was time to go. So I left the refuge in March 2008, landed at Newport High School, and luckily, which is a great gig, and I have yet to go back to the refuge. I have driven past it. Every tree that you see, I had a hand in that. It's my proudest accomplishment I've ever done. We put in 15,000 trees up there over 10 years to restore the uplands up there, with at least 150 groups ranging from sexual offenders to, you know, people who were in their 80s and 90s. I would take anybody who wanted to go out and cut blackberries or plant trees. And I love that. And I guess I can say now publicly, I got a call from one of my friends, and she goes, I'm standing at the top of Cannery Hill, Matt. It's Saturday in August. It's 70 degrees, and there's nobody here. So I think my fears may have been overblown. And I'm willing to admit that, and I'm glad I'm wrong, because they were estimating that 250 cars a day were going to go up there basically to see a view of the Pacific, which there's millions of those on the coast. So that's chronicled in the book. I think there's some bad blood on their part and my part about what happened. I'm not sure how to rectify that. I will tell you that this book has attracted some national interest. I think it's going to go as a national book. And I'm rewriting this now. It's interesting. I should share this with Asher. You think something's done, and now I'm just shredding this book apart. And I'm like, this is terrible. These passages, cut, cut, cut. And so I'm going back to the book now. It's still a long shot, but this could be a story that could reach a national audience about what happened up there and my experience on the refuge. So, but I want to read one last section from this and then have a little contest. I did not forge a conventional literary career. And through the work, I helped people like Don, libraries, museums, people that choose to buy their books at the local bookstore here. I was able to reach an audience. I founded Nestucca Spit Press, and I only sell my books through Oregon independent bookstores or through my website or out of my truck. And you can't get them on Amazon. You can't get them at Borders or Barnes & Noble, because I want to try to help independent bookstore owners. But there was a reason why I did that. And I want to share this story, because I know there's a lot of people who are aspiring writers, probably in Yachats every other block, right? Or an artist or something. I'm going to read this to you. A few weeks after I ended my teaching career at Nesquin Valley School, I began an intense writing apprenticeship entirely of my own design, not really knowing where it would lead. I just knew I had to write and get it in print. Over the next 3 years, I wrote hundreds of articles, columns, and reviews for about a dozen local and regional publications. They barely paid anything, but it was a start. I even put in a rigorous 2-year hitch as a sports writer for Tillamook's newspaper, covering high school athletic contests and writing up 3, sometimes 4, 600 stories every weekend. During my apprenticeship, I wrote on a wide variety of topics, but found I most enjoyed reporting lost or forgotten Oregon stories from the 1960s and 70s, like Vortex. Virtually no other writer in the state was mining this rich territory. It was here I found my literary voice, a distinct one for Oregon, I believe. I finished a vastly different version of Gimme Refuge in 2001 and sent it to approximately 30 agents and publishers. One day I received the following letter excerpted here. Now, for those of you that are aspiring writers, to get an actual letter from an agent that's written is like, my God, that's better. That's almost like getting published, right? So I opened this letter, and here it is. Dear Matt, I promised that I would go through your manuscript this weekend, and I did. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. It's interesting and compelling and solidly written for the most part. You definitely improved it over the first version I saw. Still, having said all that, I just don't know how saleable this is. What should you say your target audience is? Environmentalists? Burned out teachers? I'm not just sure. Especially since the ending is so uncertain. It seems premature, as if this is a book that you should write after you succeeded or failed at something other than teaching. I'm going to pass on taking this on. On a personal note, and this is a hard thing to write, while the book is engaging and solidly written, I don't see it as a work of high literary merit. I don't think you're going to be a truly great writer, although you're a good writer. What I did see throughout the manuscript was a truly great teacher, the type that I hope my children will have in middle school. Obviously, you have to do what you have to do, but I think it's a damn shame that you're no longer in the classroom. Just my opinion. I do wish you the best of luck with the book and the refuge and your future writing and figuring out what you should really be doing. Best, Laura. It's a shocker. A few weeks after receiving the letter, I took a call from an assistant editor of a large New York publishing house. He wanted to talk about the manuscript. So once again, I'm getting a call from one of those glass towers in New York, and somebody wants to talk about my book. I'm shaking on the other end of the phone. This is it. I read it in one sitting. Really liked it a lot, but we can't use it. There's not enough at stake for the reader. What do you mean, at stake? I said. The conflict you present would not sustain a reader's interest over the length of a book. What do you think is at stake in this book, I asked. I'm not sure, that's part of the problem. Well, let me ask you, are you doing what you always dreamed of doing? I mean, did you grow up dreaming that one day you would read other people's manuscripts and decide if they were worth publishing? No, that's what's at stake. I didn't convince him, and the manuscript didn't convince any other agent or publisher. Finally, after receiving yet another form rejection letter, I bought a plastic tote, entombed all the notes and drafts for Gimme Refuge inside, wrote "Rest in Peace" on the lid, and shoved it into a dark, remote corner of the house where the mice ruled. If they could penetrate the tote like they somehow managed to penetrate the microwave oven, the book was theirs. From that moment on, I decided to pursue my own publishing path. I simply couldn't wait around and expend further energy trying to persuade a nearby or far-flung publisher of anything. I'd always done things unconventionally in my life, and it dawned on me I must continue and intensify that habit if I was ever going to reach a wider audience. So that's exactly what I did. I took that. My dad always taught me one door closes, another one's going to open. And that opened the door for me to put out my little Oregon-centric books, to connect to people like Don and readers and Yahats. And then if this book takes off, great. I've already let it go, you know? And if it happens, that would be wonderful. It might be nice to make a little bit of money one of these days from writing about Oregon, but it doesn't matter. And I'm on to some other stories, and so that's the story of Gimme Refuge. Now, I'm going to talk about my next book. Take a look at this picture here. Who is this man on the bayfront? Who is that attractive-looking 46-year-old man at the time wearing white Levi's and a white jacket? It's Paul Newman in front of Moe's. That's John Foreman, the co-producer of Sometimes a Great Notion, filmed in Lincoln County in the summer of 1970. This is one of my favorite Oregon artifacts I collected. Now, this is a preview of the next book. So I'm going to begin with an interview Paul Newman gave to Playboy magazine in 1983. Okay? And by the way, I just visited the house today on the Slets River that is featured in the film. So I'm considering renting it out. Which would be kind of fun, I think.